What if I told you that Dallas Mavericks just made a move so cold-blooded, it changes everything we thought we knew about their future? They just waived former first-round pick Olivier-Maxence Prosper a mere year after drafting him. But that's not even the wildest part. Look at their lineup now. Luka Dončić, gone. Replaced by a stunning new core led by Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson. This isn't a simple roster tweak. This is a full-scale demolition of the old Mavericks. Why would they cut a young asset for nothing? And what does this shocking move reveal about their desperate, all-in gamble to win now? Stick around, because the real reason involves a financial nightmare, a historic lineup shakeup, and a bet that could either save this franchise or bury it. This is the story you need to hear. All right, let's be real for a second. This new Mavericks roster looks like it was built in a fantasy draft, not the real NBA. Let's break it down, position by position. First, the backcourt. With Kyrie Irving still sidelined recovering from that brutal torn ACL, the weight falls squarely on Klay Thompson and D'Angelo Russell. Klay brings that championship pedigree, that smooth jumper we all know and love, but let's not ignore the reality. He's 34 years old, and his lateral movement isn't what it used to be. He's a defensive liability now, whether anyone in Dallas wants to admit it or not. And D'Angelo Russell? He's a solid regular season player, a good shot maker, but as your primary ball handler on a team with championship aspirations, that's a massive, massive question mark. Behind them, you've got Dante Exum and Brandon Williams. They're fine for depth, but they're not moving the needle in the Western Conference gauntlet. This group lacks a true elite table setter, and that's a huge problem. Then you look at the front court. Anthony Davis, when he's on the court and healthy, is an absolute monster, a defensive anchor and a walking bucket. But that's the whole issue, the when he's healthy part. The man missed significant time last season with a groin injury and just had eye surgery. His health is the biggest question mark hanging over this entire franchise. Behind him, you've got Derek Lively II and Daniel Gafford. Both are fantastic, young, energetic rim runners and protectors, but neither of them can space the floor. They clog the paint. And then there's the rookie, Cooper Flagg. The kid has all the upside in the world, but throwing a rookie into the fire on a team that's trying to win now, that is a monumental risk. And that's the real story here. Fit, or the complete lack of it. This roster is a collection of names, not a cohesive basketball team. You have Anthony Davis and two more traditional centers in Lively and Gafford. That means the paint is constantly crowded, which kills driving lanes for guys like Caleb Martin and Najee Marshall. The wing depth is shockingly thin, forcing role players into much larger minutes than they should be playing. And without a primary creator like Luka to break down defenses, this half-court offense could easily devolve into a mess of isolations and heavily contested jump shots. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. The potential is there. When everyone is healthy, this is a top-tier defensive team with AD, Gafford, and Lively protecting the rim. They have shooting with Klay and Russell, but that's a gigantic if. This entire season is a health gamble. If AD goes down or if Kyrie's recovery hits another snag, this whole experiment, this house of cards comes crashing down. The margin for error is zero. But to really understand this move, you have to look beyond the court, straight into the Mavericks front office, where a power shift has completely changed how this team operates. For over 2 decades, Mark Cuban was the face of this franchise, the passionate, outspoken owner who lived and breathed every draft pick, every trade, every single decision. But in late 2023, Cuban sold the majority share of the team to Miriam Adelson and her son-in-law, Patrick Dumont, in a massive $3.5 billion deal. Cuban kept a small stake, but the NBA stripped him of final decision-making power. And on a recent podcast, Cuban admitted just how tough that transition has been for him. He said, and I quote, "That's been the toughest part, just not being the final decision-maker when it comes to on-court decisions." Now, Patrick Dumont is the new governor in charge, and by all accounts, he's learning fast. Cuban himself said Dumont is smart, putting in the time and willing to spend the money. But here's the thing, Dumont isn't making emotional moves. He's not attached to players Cuban drafted. He's running this like a business, a cold, calculated business. And waiving Olivier-Maxence Prosper, that was one of his first major decisions, a clear signal that this new regime is all about pragmatism, not nostalgia. This isn't the Mark Cuban era anymore, where loyalty sometimes outweighed logic. This is a new Dallas Mavericks, one that's willing to cut a recent first-round pick just to gain a slight financial advantage. And if you think this is the last brutal move they'll make, you haven't been paying attention. Now let's talk about the human cost of this financial calculation. Olivier-Maxence Prosper wasn't just a name on a spreadsheet. He was a first-round pick just 2 years ago, selected 24th overall in the 2023 draft. At 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan, he possessed the exact type of switchable defense and athletic versatility that modern NBA teams crave. He was raw, but his potential was undeniable. A developmental project with the tools to become a disruptive wing defender. But in Dallas's win-now environment, development takes a back seat to immediate contribution. With veterans like Klay Thompson, Anthony Davis, and PJ Washington dominating the rotation, Prosper's minutes were always going to be limited. He became the odd man out in a roster crammed with win-now talent. The Mavericks prioritized experience over upside, sacrificing a piece of their future to maximize their present. Here's the kicker. Prosper's waiver isn't just about him. It's a statement about the Mavericks' entire philosophy. They're all in on veterans, even if it means losing young assets for nothing. And while Prosper might land elsewhere, teams like the Raptors or Celtics are already sniffing around, Dallas risks repeating the same mistakes that plagued them in the past, trading away future talent for short-term gains. But the real question is, will this gamble pay off? If the Mavericks thrive, Prosper's departure will be forgotten. If they stumble, this move will haunt them for years. Let's cut to the chase. The Dallas Mavericks aren't just building a roster. They're placing a high-stakes bet that could either cement their legacy or blow up in their faces. This isn't about gradual improvement, it's about winning immediately. And every move they've made screams desperation and ambition. With a core led by Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, and Cooper Flagg, the Mavericks are leveraging their future for a shot at glory. But here's the problem. The Western Conference is a bloodbath. Teams like the Nuggets, Warriors, and Thunder are stacked with depth, chemistry, and youth. Dallas? They're relying on veterans with injury histories and a rookie who's never played an NBA minute.
The financials tell the same story. The Mavericks are $69 million over the cap, trapped in the second apron with minimal flexibility. Waiving Prosper was just one piece of a larger puzzle. Freeing up $1 million in dead money might seem insignificant, but it's a symptom of a bigger issue. They're all in with no backup plan. Their taxpayer mid-level exception is already spent on D'Angelo Russell, and their trade exceptions are limited. If injuries hit, and with Anthony Davis's history that's a real possibility, they have no safety net, no assets to trade, no cap space to sign replacements. It's championship or bust, and bust would be catastrophic. But the biggest risk isn't financial, it's philosophical. By prioritizing veterans over youth, the Mavericks are ignoring the long game. Prosper was a symbol of their future, and they sacrificed him for short-term gains. If this experiment fails, they'll have no young talent to develop, no draft picks to rebuild with, and no flexibility to retool. It's a dangerous game, and the entire league is watching to see if it pays off. So, what's the verdict? On paper, this roster has the talent to compete, but basketball isn't played on paper. It's played on the court, where chemistry, health, and timing matter more than big names. The Mavericks are betting everything on that reality aligning with their vision. And if it doesn't, this could go down as one of the biggest gambles in NBA history. The fallout from the Mavericks' decision to waive Olivier-Maxence Prosper has been swift and polarizing. On social media and sports talk shows, fans are deeply divided. Some applaud the front office's aggressive win-now mentality, arguing that surrounding Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson with proven veterans gives the team its best shot at a championship. Others, however, see it as a short-sighted move that echoes past missteps, sacrificing youth and flexibility for fleeting success. Many are questioning the logic of cutting a recent first-round pick rather than including him in a trade package, especially given the team's lack of future draft assets. The league-wide implications are equally significant. Rival executives are closely monitoring Prosper's status, with teams like the Toronto Raptors and Boston Celtics reportedly interested in claiming him off waivers. His combination of size, defensive versatility, and untapped potential makes him a low-risk, high-reward target for franchises focused on player development. For the Mavericks, this move signals a high-stakes gamble that could either validate their all-in approach or expose its flaws. If Prosper thrives elsewhere, it may haunt Dallas for years, especially if their veteran-heavy roster underperforms or suffers injuries. Moreover, the Mavericks' financial constraints, being $69 million over the cap, limit their ability to make additional moves, leaving them with minimal flexibility to address unforeseen challenges. This decision also reflects broader trends in the NBA, where second-apron teams are forced to make difficult choices between retaining young talent and maintaining financial compliance. The league is watching to see if Dallas's strategy pays off or becomes a cautionary tale. The Mavericks just made a brutal business decision, waiving first-round pick Olivier-Maxence Prosper to save $1 million against the hard cap. With Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson now leading the team, Dallas is all in on veterans. But sacrificing young talent for financial flexibility is a huge risk. If injuries hit or chemistry fails, this move could backfire hard. The front office is betting everything on winning now. No safety net, no plan B.